All right, so get ready because we're about to take a deep dive into something a little bit different this time.
Yeah?
We're going to be looking at excerpts from this book, Caballo de Troya 9 by J J Benitez.
Okay.
And it's a fictional story, but it has kind of a wild premise.
Okay.
This time traveler who ends up walking alongside Jesus.
Wow. That's definitely a unique lens to view history and spirituality through. I mean, just imagine getting firsthand accounts of all these events that we've only read about or heard about in sermons.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today is to dig out the most fascinating and the most thought-provoking parts of this book.
Okay.
And one of the things that really stood out to me
Yeah.
was this idea of a spark of God that's inside every single person.
It's a pretty powerful concept, right? I mean, the book describes it as like an actual piece of God within us that drives us to find meaning and connect with the divine.
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking, is that longing that we often feel, that search for something bigger than ourselves, is that actually that spark trying to find its way back to the source?
Wow, yeah. It really makes you think about what we're all really searching for.
Right.
And speaking of mind-blowing, the book is packed with the time traveler witnessing all these miracles firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
The one that really grabbed me was the healing of that severely burned child.
That scene is intense.
Oh, yeah.
Benitez really does not hold back on the details, the child's agony, Jesus's embrace, a blue light surrounding them,
Yeah.
and then bam, the kid just walks away completely healed.
Crazy.
It makes you wonder if such profound healing is possible. What does that actually say about the limits of human potential?
Right. It definitely challenges our assumptions about what's possible.
Definitely.
And this is a miracle at the wedding in Cana, turning water into wine.
Ah, yes, the classic.
Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
The time traveler, being a scientist,
Right.
he analyzes the wine
Wow.
and finds it to be of incredible quality, way beyond anything that they could have produced back then.
Really?
Makes you wonder if there was something more at play than just a simple substitution.
Almost like a signature.
Right.
Like, this is divine wine, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book doesn't just stop at one or two miracles.
Right.
There's the mass healing at Sidon,
Oh, wow.
where over 600 people are cured instantly from all sorts of illnesses.
It's hard to wrap your head around that kind of scale.
I know.
Blindness, paralysis, a leprosy gone in a flash.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes you think about the nature of healing itself. Is it just physical?
Right.
Or is there a deeper spiritual component that we're just missing?
Okay. But let's talk about Jesus himself.
Okay.
The way he's portrayed in the book is really interesting. Super compassionate.
Yeah.
But also with this sly sense of humor. And did I mention he can read minds?
It's definitely a more multi-dimensional portrayal than we often see. I think you really get a sense of his humanity, not just his divinity.
Right.
Like, there's this anecdote where he's gently teasing the time traveler. Or when his disciples are attacked and he just forgives the attackers.
Right.
It really highlights his capacity for empathy and understanding.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that even when things get tough, there's always room for compassion.
Absolutely.
And the book also dives into everyday Jewish life, which I found fascinating.
Right. You get these really vivid descriptions of the Feast of Purim,
Oh, yeah?
the complexities of the Jewish purity laws, even a funny little bit about the wedding rituals in Cana.
Yeah.
It really helps to ground the story in its historical context.
Yeah.
And it gives you a feel for what life was like back then.
Yeah, it paints a pretty vivid picture.
It does?
But one thing that surprised me was how the book portrayed John the Baptist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot more militant than I expected.
That's a fascinating element.
Yeah.
Benitez presents him as this charismatic leader rallying people against Roman rule, which, let's be honest, is quite a departure from the more subdued figure we often see in religious art.
Definitely. And it raises some interesting questions about different approaches to faith and social change. Was John's path the right one? Was Jesus's?
Yeah.
It makes you think about the choices we make when faced with injustice and oppression.
Absolutely. And woven throughout all of this is the time traveler's own story.
Right.
This guy is dealing with a lot ethical dilemmas about his mission.
Yeah.
Personal struggles, even falling in love.
Right. And let's not forget the tech angle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Galileo time machine, a supercomputer called Santa Claus.
Yeah.
These tiny Nemos
Yeah.
that he uses for analysis. It's straight out of science fiction.
But what's interesting is that Benitez uses these elements not just for the why factor, but to explore deeper questions about the limits of our understanding.
Okay.
What if our current scientific knowledge is just scratching the surface? What possibilities might be out there that we haven't even conceived of yet?
Right. It's enough to make your head spin.
Yeah.
But before we get too lost in the time-space continuum, there's one more point we need to make clear.
Right.
This is all presented as fiction.
Right.
It's meant to be a creative interpretation of historical and spiritual themes.
Yeah.
Not a factual account.
It's an invitation to explore these ideas with an open mind and draw your own conclusions.
Right.
You don't have to take everything literally.
Yeah.
What resonates with you? What new insights do you gain from this unique perspective?
Think of it as a springboard for your own reflection and exploration.
And on that note, it's a good place to pause for a moment.
Okay.
Join us in part 2, where we'll uncover even more layers of this thought-provoking story. Welcome back to our deep dive into Caballo de Troya 9. You know, one of the things that struck me as I was reading these excerpts was how even Jesus had to deal with family drama.
Oh,
imagine being his brother and seeing him choose these 6 strangers as his closest confidants.
Oh, yeah. The book definitely doesn't shy away from showing that tension.
No, it doesn't.
You see his brother James getting jealous, questioning his choices.
Yeah.
It's kind of a reminder that even someone like Jesus had to navigate those very human dynamics.
Exactly. It humanizes him in a way that you don't often see.
Right.
And it's not just the family.
Right.
Even the disciples themselves are shown struggling with doubts and fears.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene where they're about to go out on their first mission alone?
Oh, yeah.
They're bombarding Jesus with all these practical questions. Where are we going to sleep? What are we going to eat?
Or they sound like me trying to pack for a weekend trip.
Exactly. And it's interesting how Jesus responds. He basically tells them, trust in my Father, he will guide you.
Such a simple message.
Right.
But so hard to actually put into practice.
I know.
I mean, it's like he's saying, let go of the need to control everything.
Yeah.
And just have faith.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the answers we're searching for aren't going to come from logic or planning. Right.
Sometimes we just need to surrender to something bigger than ourselves.
Definitely. And speaking of surrendering to something bigger.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the time traveler himself.
Okay.
He's not some perfect emotionless observer.
Right.
This guy has feelings, makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Even falls head over heels for a woman named Ruth.
That love story is really poignant.
It's
especially when she gets sick.
Yeah.
He's torn between wanting to help her and knowing he's not supposed to interfere with the past.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the ethics of time travel.
It does.
If you had the power to change someone's fate, would you?
Right?
And what would the consequences be?
Exactly.
It's a real moral dilemma.
It is, and it speaks to that human desire to control things.
Yeah.
To fix what we perceive as broken. But maybe sometimes accepting things as they are is the greatest act of faith.
Deep thoughts, man. Now, you know what I was wondering?
What's that?
Where does the whole Caballo de Troya Trojan Horse thing come in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the title of the book.
It's all about the time traveler's mission.
Okay.
Think about it. He's sent back in time, disguised as a human, to observe and record everything.
Okay.
He's essentially a Trojan horse infiltrating the past.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It adds this whole layer of espionage and intrigue to the story.
Right.
It's not just about Jesus. It's about someone from another time, another world, trying to understand him.
And what's fascinating is how Benitez blends this sci-fi element with the spiritual narrative.
Right.
Like, remember those tiny devices the time traveler uses?
Oh, yeah, the Nemos?
The Nemos. He uses one to analyze the wine from the miracle at Cana.
Oh, wow.
Almost like he's trying to find scientific proof of the divine.
Right, and then there's that mysterious message he gets from the future.
Yes.
Hinting at some big event in 2027.
Uh-huh.
It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Is this all connected somehow?
Right.
Are our actions today going to ripple through time?
Yeah.
And affect things centuries from now?
Talk about a mind-bending concept.
I know.
It definitely makes you question the nature of time and destiny.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the political backdrop of the story. Benitez really highlights the tensions between the Jewish people and the Roman Empire and how that fuels John the Baptist's more militant approach.
It's a good reminder that history is never just about dates and names.
Right.
It's about real people struggling with real issues, oppression, injustice, the desire for freedom.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those struggles lead to violence and conflict, even in the face of messages of peace and love.
There's that one scene where John the Baptist's followers attack Jesus' disciples.
Oh, yeah.
And it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's like Benitez is showing us that darkness exists even in the midst of light, and that the fight for a better world is often messy and complicated.
Definitely makes you think.
It does.
And I can't forget to mention that terrifying description of the death white plague. It's like 1 minute everything is fine, and then bam, this devastating disease sweeps through and changes everything.
Right. It's a powerful reminder of how fragile life can be and how quickly things can change.
Man, this book really keeps you on your toes.
It does.
History, spirituality, science fiction, even a little bit of a thriller vibe.
He's got it all.
It's like a roller coaster ride through time and faith.
It is, and I think we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But maybe this is a good point to take a breath and let all of this sink in for a moment.
Good idea. We'll be back in just a bit to continue our deep dive and unpack even more of these fascinating ideas. Okay, so we're back and ready to finish up our deep dive into Caballo de Troya 9.
Let's do it.
And as we've been talking about this book, one thing that keeps coming up for me is this whole theme of searching for truth.
Yeah, I see that too. It's like the time traveler is constantly observing, questioning, trying to make sense of everything he's seeing through his own understanding.
It's almost like he's on this personal quest to reconcile his beliefs with the reality that's unfolding in front of him.
Yeah.
And it's not just him, right?
No.
The disciples are on their own journeys too.
Absolutely.
They're wrestling with doubts, challenging Jesus, and gradually coming to their own understanding of his teachings.
It's a good reminder that true faith isn't about just blindly accepting things.
Right.
It's about seeking, questioning, grappling with the big questions, and ultimately finding your own truth.
Totally. It's like that saying, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Right.
And the book itself encourages us to do the same.
Yeah.
It's not just laying out a set of facts or doctrines.
Right.
It's prompting us to engage with these ideas critically and find our own meaning within them.
What I find fascinating is how Benitez explores the complexities of human relationships within this larger spiritual context.
Right.
We see love, jealousy, betrayal, forgiveness, the whole spectrum of human emotions.
It's not all sunshine and miracles.
No, it's not.
Like take Judas, for example.
Okay.
The way he's portrayed is really interesting.
Yeah.
At first, he seems like a very practical, even skeptical guy.
He's so fixated on this idea of a political messiah.
Right.
Someone who will overthrow Roman rule.
Right. Like, come on, Jesus.
You can almost see him getting frustrated with Jesus, urging him to use his powers for a more worldly purpose.
He's like, dude, you can walk on water and heal the sick.
Right.
Why are we hanging out with lepers and tax collectors?
Yeah, exactly. But as the story goes on,
right,
you see him becoming more and more disillusioned.
Yes.
It's kind of a tragic arc, you know?
It is.
It makes you wonder what leads someone down that path of betrayal.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even the people closest to us can have their own agendas.
Right.
Their own struggles that we may not be aware of.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those internal conflicts can lead to pretty devastating consequences.
I'm sure.
Man, that's heavy. But speaking of often overlooked perspectives,
okay,
I was also struck by how the book highlights the role of women in Jesus' life.
Yes. They're not just these background characters, Mary Magdalene, Jesus' mother, other women. They're all actively participating in his ministry, offering support guidance, and even challenging his decisions.
It's a good reminder that women have always played a vital role in spiritual movements.
Absolutely.
Even if their stories haven't always been told.
For sure. And amidst all these profound themes, Benitez also throws in these little details about everyday life in ancient Judea.
Oh, yeah.
You can almost smell the marketplace, hear the chatter in the streets, feel the dust under your feet.
It's like he drops you right into the middle of it all.
And that's what makes this book so engaging. It's not just about abstract concepts or historical events. It's about the lived experience of faith, the messiness of human relationships, the beauty and the brutality of the world that Jesus walked in.
And speaking of journeys,
we
can't forget about the time traveler's own story.
Right.
The ending of the book is pretty bittersweet.
Yeah.
He has to go back to his own time.
Right.
And it leaves you with this feeling of unfinished business.
It does.
Like there's so much more to explore.
It's almost like the journey is cut short.
Yeah.
But maybe that's intentional. The book ends with a message of hope,
Yeah.
but also a sense of mystery. Like Benitez is saying, okay, I've given you a glimpse, but now it's your turn to keep searching.
Exactly. It's an invitation to continue exploring these themes, to question our assumptions, and to keep searching for our own truth.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Caballo de Troya 9, I think the key takeaway is this.
Yeah.
It's a book that challenges us to look beyond the surface.
Yeah.
To question, to feel, to embrace the complexities of faith, history, and the human experience.
And to remember that the search for meaning, that yearning for something more, it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
Even if we never quite reach a final destination.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
Right
You
there.
never know what truths you might uncover along the way.
And that's it for our deep dive into Caballo de Troya 9. We hope you found it thought-provoking and maybe even sparked some new ideas for your own journey.